Tata Motors has just unveiled their mid-size SUV concept called the Curvv, a very interesting SUV with some very interesting design language on it. I'm here to talk to Martin Uhlarik, who heads the design team at Tata Motors. Martin, fantastic looking car, very handsome, very interesting, a very different direction from what we've seen so far at Tata Motors, especially with the EV front. What's the intent behind this entire SUV?
Yeah, the first intent was we're introducing a new product in our portfolio. It's I think a new product in the market. You know, from a typology point of view, we're introducing a coupe into the market, but based on an SUV. It's something we've seen globally starting to emerge and accelerate. And of course, it's an EV first. So when you think about our EV performance, if you think about the acceleration, the torque curve that an EV offers, it's quite sporty. So I think the marriage of a coupe with an SUV to get the practicality and the emotion, and then you add the fact that it's an EV, I think it makes a very comprehensive cocktail.
This is an entirely new design from ground up, but is this evolution of sorts from what you already have in the market?
Yes, it's based on an existing platform, a Gen 2 product platform, but at the same time what we've done is, when we say different by design, design is not just the styling and the aesthetics and so forth, but even the proportion. So as you know, we've extended the wheelbase. It's the longest wheelbase in our EV portfolio, and we did that because we knew we wanted to create a coupe, but at the same time what we wanted to do was get the right balance and proportion. So the rear wheel relative to the C-pillar, that's sort of sloping rear, that was really the key about getting the architecture right.
Now, on many concepts, what we usually see is the conceptual form doesn't really make it down to production. What is Tata Motors intending to do?
Yeah, our intent is to put this car in production. I think we have a pretty good track record on delivering on the promises. If you think about the Tata HBX and then subsequently the Punch, I think the translation was very good. And every program that we do, we try to make the gap smaller and smaller. So I always tell the designers and the design team, make the concepts look like they're producible and make the production cars look like concepts. So that's the ultimate ambition.
So far in the industry, what you usually seen is manufacturers coming out with an ICE version and then moving on towards electrics. You've now gone, first electric first and then the ICE. So from a design perspective, what are the challenges?
We're a leader in EVs in the market, and at the same time we see EVs going mainstream. So we're, as a forward-looking company, and as being designers who want to be as progressive as possible, we wanted to make the EV the lead product. So in this case, all of the design was EV first, and the ICE is the sort of the derivative.
The name is very interesting because you've called it the Curvv, but the only curve that you're seeing so far right now is the coupe-like silhouette,
yes,
the sloping roof line.
That's the signature of this car. Is the roof line, is the curve, it's the arch. For lack of a better word. When we thought about the name and the word, when you think about Curvv, you think about a sort of athletic ability to go into corners quite quickly. It has an emotional appeal as well. So I think it was just the right name, to find the character of what this product is about.
Well, the design language that we're seeing on the Curvv, of course, is a fair deviation from what we've seen so far on Tata Motors cars, existing thing. Is this a new language that they're going to follow with the next generation of cars?
Yeah, the design language never stops. So every model is the next step of evolution. So this is an evolution of the language that we've had, but as you can see, it started to really accelerate. And of course, because it's EV, it has to take a little bit of a different, track, from the conventional portfolio. And yes, one of the elements of the design language that we really wanted to do was to minimize it. We want to make it as timeless as possible, as clean as possible, and what we said is digital. So clean body sides. The few lines that you have are very sharp. So it's less lines, but the ones that you have are really pronounced and really make a statement.
Right. From the design perspective, part of it is usually function. Some of it is also form, where you kind of express your flares as well. What are the elements that you could talk to us about where form kind of plays over function or function plays over form?
Well, for instance, here on the front, we kind of separated the front bonnet and the front of the vehicle. Again, aerodynamic, so you see a number of inlets, outlets, whether it's on the front bumper, rear bumper. You'll notice that the C-pillar is actually floating. So again, it's an ability, so that's form follows function. And at the same time, overall, I'm a big believer that the product can't be superficial. So there is a beauty part of it, there is a styling aspect to it, but ultimately everything is there for a purpose. And it's just the right amount. There's nothing superficial about it.
When you drew up the designs for the Curvv, was it an Indian market or more of a global appeal to this product?
It was both. It was both. Obviously, this is focused on the Indian market. This is our home country, home territory. So always that has to go into consideration. It very much determined the overall parameters, proportions. You know, ingress egress is very important. You know, if we didn't want to make the car look claustrophobic, that was actually one of the aspects. You know, when we started the brief. When people said, "Oh, it's a coupe," it's not going to be practical. But actually, the rear headroom is very, standard for a 4.3 meter SUV. Same with the boot space. We're really offering like class-leading boot space. So that practicality, that function still has to be there, specific to the Indian market. At the same time, this car could be sold in any market just by the capability, the design, and also the quality.
While drawing up the designs for the Curvv also, Martin, I mean, I'm sure you take into consideration the kind of materials you're going to be using. And given that this is the coupe SUV with a fairly large battery pack, powerful motors as well, are you looking at, more exotic materials in production, or is it going to be just high-strength steel or aluminium, carbon fiber? What is the intent?
What we're looking at is because, this is an EV, and obviously, electrification is happening because of a demand. It's a responsibility. So we're looking at all materials are being reviewed, whether it's the ones you see and also the ones that you don't see. There's a sustainability story to be told. I think the car has to walk the walk and talk the talk.
All right, fantastic. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Martin,
All right,
and
thank you.
all the best. Thank you so much.
Cheers.